it's really like the battle of the bears. Who is doomier than the next one? Nouriel, you're actually pretty moderate when it comes to the U.S. economy, it sounds.
Yes, actually, I thought I was Dr. Doom until I met Peter, and compared to him, I'm Dr. Boom. He has been predicting a collapse of the dollar, gold going through the roof, and inflation rising sharply. I just see the opposite. I see a U.S. economy which, in spite of QE1, Q2, QE3, there's going to be an economic recovery. There's not going to be much inflation because there is slack in the goods market, slack in the labor market, now slack in commodities. And while base money, of course, has quadrupled, M3 or credit growth has been anemic because most of this excess money has gone in excess reserves of the banking system, velocity has collapsed. So we're printing a lot of money, but it's not creating credit, it's not creating inflation. And if we had not done this policy, this great recession would have become a Great Depression. So inflation is going to stay low, gold prices are going to fall, and I don't believe that the dollar is going to collapse. Actually, I believe the dollar is going to become stronger in the next few years.
What is Nouriel
just the
missing
opposite
in your
of what
view?
Peter thinks.
Well, I disagree with what he just said. But, the real point of the argument in the panel was over inflation, whether or not it's good or bad. Nouriel's point is that he believes that economies need a certain amount of inflation to grow, and that somehow consumers are better off if the prices of the things that they need and want go up every year. And it's my opinion that economies are served by falling prices, by increased production, increased efficiencies that lower consumer prices, that's what makes people better off. And I think the idea that central banks need to deliberately create inflation because it's somehow a necessary ingredient to economic growth is wrong. Inflation is actually worsening the problems in the economy.
Well, the argument I made was different. I'm in favor of low inflation, a target of 2%. You were arguing that actually deflation is good. I was pointing out that in the period of time in which we had deflation, the Great Depression, or the stagnation of Japan in the last 20 years, or what's happening right now in the Eurozone where you have deflation and recession, deflation is associated with lack of aggregate demand that implies an economy in depression. And therefore deflation is a symptom of lack of growth and aggregate demand. Why do you think deflation is good? That's nonsense.
Nouriel, why is 2% inflation better than 1% inflation? And I'd like you to give me an example, because you said if consumers think prices will go down, they won't shop. I'd like you to give me the example of one product that you wanted, that you needed, that you would defer buying for a year because you thought if you waited a year, it would be 1% cheaper.
First of all, the effects of deflations are to increase the real values of debt, the debt deflation trap. That's a phenomenon that has been studied forever. First of all, debt. Secondly, if you expect that prices are going to be lower in the future, you can postpone consumption because goods are going to be cheaper in the future. That's why deflation is considered as something that reduces aggregate demand.
People don't do that. I mean, Americans...
Well, we've seen three stories. You're talking about theory. I'm talking about three historical
I'm talking
episodes.
about fact.
Great Depression, Japan and Europe today, where you have deflation and you have recession and depression. So theory or the facts?
Look, let me give you the facts. Americans use credit cards. They buy things and they pay 18% interest. Why don't they wait a year, save the money, and save the 18%? Because they want it now. There is no period in history where consumers have not bought things because they thought the prices would be cheaper. We know the price is going to be cheaper. We all own cell phones. We know if we wait a while, we can get the phone cheaper. But we don't wait because we want it now. This is all nonsense. The central banks are creating this propaganda because they want inflation, because they want to wipe out debt. Inflation is good for debtors because it allows them to default on their debts. And you have all these overly indebted governments. They need inflation, and they need inflation to prop up asset prices, but the consumer doesn't need inflation. The economy doesn't need inflation. What we need is more production and falling prices because that's what grows an economy. That's what leads to higher living standards when workers can buy more with the money they earn.
He just called your argument nonsense.
Listen, he has been saying that we're going to have high inflation, that gold prices are going to go through the roof, that the dollar is going to collapse because of this monetary expansion. I'm making the argument this monetary expansion has occurred because demand is depressed, because we have debts, and because of these factors, in spite of an increase in the base money, we're still having anemic economic growth, we're having low inflation rather than high inflation, and the gold prices are falling.
Well, you're right.
And deflation historically is associated with lack of aggregate demand and situation of recession, if not depression. Those are the facts.
I want to pick up that, Peter, because our viewers will be very familiar with you. We've had you on several times, and you've always said gold prices are going to go higher.
Well, they have been higher. I've been predicting higher.
Well, I can give you 6 reasons why they're going to go lower.
Well, but Nouriel, you were saying gold prices were going to go down the whole time from 500 to 1900. You were bearish on gold.
They've gone from 19 down to 1200.
So look,
you said they're going to 5,000.
It will.
They're not above 2,000.
It will go there. You have to wait more time.
Okay. I bet they're going to go lower.
So investors should wait for that long.
Gold has been going up for 13 years. It had one decline year, and now everybody wants to say, well, you see, the price of gold is going down. It went down 1 year, but in the last 13 years, 14 years, it's done very well. But look, how long was I warning? How long was I warning about the housing bubble and the financial crisis before it happened? It was years. It takes a while for these problems to surface. We do have an inflation problem. We do have a bubble, and commodity prices are rising. Gold prices aren't rising. Maybe you haven't noticed, but gold is 1,300.
My two crazy uncles out of the attic that haven't joined us here at the SALT conference.
Well, the viewers finally got a taste of what actually happened here at SALT. So front row seat for you guys out there.
I'm still waiting for the commodity that he's not going to buy because he's going to wait for 1% off.
Deflation is associated with depression. That's a historical fact.
That doesn't mean it causes it.
We got to leave it there. Guys, thank you so much.